quickly.
When do you want me to announce that I
At the end, if you'll notice,
is there an agenda item now?
commissioners' comments,
Okay, got it.
okay? Because we canceled that other meeting, you can do it tonight.
Okay.
All right, I'd like to welcome you out to the Planning Commission meeting tonight of February 23rd, 2021. I'm Commissioner Cox. Roll call, please.
Chairman Cox,
Here.
Vice Chairman Ferris,
Here.
Commissioner Hayman is absent, Commissioner Mondragon,
Here.
and Commissioner Reed.
Here.
For present, we have a quorum.
Do I have, Commissioner Reed, would you mind leading us in Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Not a problem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Do I have an approval of the agenda? I'm going to turn over to staff for just a minute on the approval of the agenda and minutes.
So, Mr. Chairman, the approval of the minutes on the agenda has the incorrect date, so that would be to 2021.
So do I have an approval of the agenda with a correction of the date?
Oh. So moved.
Second?
Chairman Cox,
Aye?
Vice Chairman Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Mondragon.
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Threw me a curveball there.
Staff on minutes, please.
So again, these are going to be the minutes for January 26, 2021.
So do I have an approval for the minutes with a correction?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Bill, second. Okay, moving on. Public comments. Excuse me. Public comments of items that are not on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the Commission on matters that are within the Commission's jurisdiction and not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the Planning Commission may not take action on any item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of an hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Do we have anybody that would like to address the Planning Commission?
The red light flashed. I think that's his way of telling us that we're good.
Seeing that there are no callers, we'll move forward. Discussion and other items. Staff report.
So what I have for you guys tonight is the 2020 General Plan Annual Progress Report and Housing Element Progress Report. So the California Government Code requires that cities and counties provide an annual report to the legislative body and the Office of Planning and Research and Community and Housing Development. The general plan was adopted by the City of Ridgecrest in 2009, and this general plan is good until 2030. The housing element was adopted in 2015, and it is good until 2023. Our general plan includes a land use, a military sustainability, community design, circulation, open space and conservation, health and safety, and the housing element. We didn't have any changes to the zoning map, but we did have amendments to the zoning ordinances, which was the home occupation permits, the temporary employee housing, and the accessory dwelling units that the Planning Commission all heard last year. Part of the general plan implementation is identifying how the projects that were heard by City Council or by Planning Commission, how those met our general plan. For the housing element, we had the affordable housing project, which also included density bonuses, the accessory dwelling units. There were some abatements by code enforcement, the finalization of 2 track maps, and the extension of 11 track maps. For the circulation element, the City Council took several actions related to streets and to public transportation. For the military sustainability element, we took actions on approving a resiliency grant. We also approved the modification of jurisdictional status and the ordinance for the temporary employee housing for the base rebuild. So those were all in support of the military sustainability. We had open space and conservation, so the Planning Commission approved the community garden and the Ridgecrest Restoration Ministries, and then the City Council took actions on the Freedom Park bathrooms. For the land use element, the Planning Commission approved the electronic sign for the Chamber of Commerce, and Council recorded the final maps for the Oasis project. And Commission also took action on the Town Plains Suites. For the health and safety element, the Council took actions on grants for the electric vehicle charging stations and the electric transit vans, and also included in that would be the benefit assessment districts. The housing element is a separate progress report, and the state provides spreadsheets. So those are the kind of difficult to read spreadsheets at the end of your packet. So this progress report is separate from the general plan. And what this one does is really record what we built. So right here, you're going to see we had certificate of occupancies issued for 84 different units. We issued an additional 41 building permits for new units, and of those units, 57 were infill. And you can see that's one of our new neighborhoods right here in the picture. So for the applications, this is going to be like the track maps that the Planning Commission approved extensions on. So for that, there were 11, and the number of units is 1,117, and those were all approved by Planning Commission. So additionally, this year, I wanted to talk about goals, policies, and objectives. Last year when we did this, we didn't really include this. So in the report, I included this, and I wanted to give the Commission an opportunity as well to provide any feedback, and the public as well, too. So right now, in the report, it includes some updates for the zoning ordinance. And I will point out that these updates are things that are actually in the housing element that was adopted in 2015. So these aren't new. They are identified in the housing element right now. Before any of this stuff moves forward, obviously it will come to the Planning Commission and the Council individually. So don't be too worried about what's in there. They are things that are identified, so if they no longer apply or if the language is different, when it gets to us, we will review it at that time. But these are just things that were identified initially, so I just want to acknowledge that they are in our housing element, and we will be looking at them. The other thing, which we had talked about last year, was the Navy has the updated map that should go into our general plan. We are using that right now, but it's not included in the general plan. So we would look to adopt that new map and anything else that might be necessary. So that would be a collaboration with the base to make sure that we are getting what we need. And additionally, staff has found multiple properties that are possibly just zoned incorrectly, and so we would like to work with the property owners, obviously, and I possibly change some of those. We have, for instance, there's a property that is zoned for like a civic use that's adjacent to a school-owned property that's a private individual's property. So staff would just kind of like to correct some of those things so that the property owner enjoys the rights of their property. And so at this time, I do want to leave it open to the commission if they have anything that they'd like to see for some goals, zone changes, zoning ordinances, anything like that that you'd like to see this year. And before I finish, so the resolution tonight will recommend that the City Council approve this general plan and the annual progress report and the housing element annual progress report. So that is what the resolution is here tonight for you guys.
Are you turning the time back to us?
It's now your turn, yes.
So I'd have one, excuse me, suggestion or towards our goals this year and going forward. We have these elements that are in the general plan, and sometimes it would be beneficial if the Planning Commission took the responsibility to look at an element a quarter and read through it. What we find is that staff, both the city manager and others, have identified certain things that might need to be addressed in each individual category. But I think it would help us familiarize ourselves with the general plan and also look at it and bring our own suggestions or thoughts that might be updated because it hasn't really been addressed for a while. And see if that will work for us today. I think when we come to military sustainability, it might be a great thing to have somebody from the base that comes in and talks to us about maybe some of their concerns as we develop, as we grow, where we might be able to not step on what they feel would be an unsafe situation. So I would like to see as the chair, the Planning Commission take that responsibility to take one sustainability, and it's not going to happen in 1 year, obviously, but as we go through it and digest it and make our suggestions for changes to the City Council, along with the input from staff, from the city manager down, things that they've come up against that goes, this just isn't working. Because unfortunately for staff, that we need to understand with staff, they can't alter from the plan. Sometimes we can. We have a little leeway. Council has leeway. But they have to follow this plan, and sometimes it's an obstacle to development. And so I think that I'd like to see us take that on as a goal. Anybody else? Commission?
I'll agree with you on that.
Nothing to add. I think it's fairly thorough, and knowing that any of this stuff can come up with any variances or anything, it leaves that open. But I also agree that we should sort of dissect it and take a deeper dive.
Well, I think it makes us a little more familiar. When we have something that comes to us, we have to be part of the plan as well. And so as we become familiar with it, but also if we see things that might be outdated that we can make recommendation to the City Council, I think would be beneficial. That's what our job is to do the heavy lifting for the City Council. And so I'd like to see us maybe do that. So that's all I have. You're still a commissioner. Do you have any input?
I think that what you hit the nail on the head. I think that everybody, the biggest problems that I've seen around here is the age of our code, the age of our
General plan.
The age of our standards, the age of everything, and with how much people are building these days, I think it's definitely something that we need to update and bring it up to the times. And I'm a firm believer of the more minds that look at it, the better the outcome, the more problems you can see arising from language, from things like that we can fix before we roll it out and are knee-deep in it.
I agree. I think when we do get a new public works director, that I'm sure he'll have some recommendations that might come to us in some of these elements too. So As well as the city manager, because the city manager has come here and he's addressed several things that we might need to look at. And so I think this will help us familiarize ourselves and be prepared for that input so that we can make our recommendation to the council. Thank you. So at this time, I would make a recommendation that we approve Resolution 2101, recommending this to the city council. Do I have a recommendation from anybody?
Do I need a second or recommend that?
No, you recommend it.
I would recommend that.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Chairman Cox,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Mondragon.
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, moving on, commissioner items and comments.
I have one.
Commissioner Reed?
As it was announced at City Council the other night, tonight will be my last meeting. I have accepted the position as the Public Works Director for the city. I appreciate the time. Councilwoman Stevens and Councilman Rajaratnam for putting me up here and allowing me the time to be up here, and it's been an honor. So I look forward to working with you guys, but from a different platform.
We are grateful for your service. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you,
other
Fred.
comments?
Thank you. Look forward to working with you in the future.
Future agenda items? Anybody have any future agenda items that you would like to see addressed?
Warren, we talked about taking up signage and a sign ordinance, and now that we have I think that we still have a code enforcement officer, so maybe that would be a good time to revisit that.
I think that's a good idea.
You talk about the temporary signs that people roll
Yeah,
out and
that
stick by
they're
the
hanging on
streets.
fences and putting up that aren't approved, sticking them in the streets,
There have
things
been
like that.
A few of those that I have seen lately.
Thank you. I think that's also very perfect there. I would think that it might be beneficial for our code enforcement officer to come and visit with us on some of the stuff that he is working on. I know there's a number of sidewalks that are pushed up and stuff like that that he's working on, and I don't know if he needs public help to identify them. So, part of his job might be more eyes, more feet, boots on the ground, and so it might be beneficial if he comes and how we can help him and vice versa. Okay?
Okay.
Any other future agenda items?
Sorry, not to cut you off, but
No.
I'm trying to remember, where did we leave off with the, God, why can I not think of what they're called? I want to say ADUs, but it's not an ADU.
Abatements?
Huh?
The abatements?
No, they're the carports.
Oh.
The carports is going to have to come back to us. I've asked staff to look at that a month ago. They were going to get together with the city manager. The recommendation from the infrastructure committee was to look at this time mostly at front yard easement setbacks and not pay attention so much to the side or backyard. The side, the only time we'll look at those in the recommendation is whether or not the water is flowing in a neighbor's yard, that there's not a setback or rain gutter or something that controls the water from their neighbor. But the recommendation from infrastructure and my conversation with the city manager was to, and with Heather, was let's pay attention only to I don't want to try and bite the whole apple at one time because it's too big of an issue.
I agree. I think non-permitted and ones that are in our front, in the easements where they can be a hazard to people trying to back out, trying to turn, kids running out, things like that. I think
is a
that's good place
visibility
to start.
problem.
I think that's a good place to start.
So there's another agenda item that we ought to fine tune and bring back and look at it in relationship to our ordinance and enforcement. If the ordinance is clear, then, the other thing is I'm seeing more and more dealers since we addressed this last time, And I don't know whether code enforcement has talked to them and told them that it's mandatory that they have a building permit. And if they're getting a building permit, then the building department has an opportunity to say it doesn't meet setback. Because we're going to have some mad constituents if, well, nobody told me. And I know that the old code enforcement officer went around to the existing businesses at the time, both in the city and county, and said they have to have a building permit. So that'll be another good reason for us to sit down with code enforcement and see where he's sitting and give him direction, probably.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in our ordinance now, anything over 120 square foot of roof has to have a permit, right?
Yes, that's true.
So,
Right. Anything more than a 10 by 10.
10 by 12 is usually what I've seen is the max. So if you have 120 square, now, I don't know, how's it worded for us? Is it worded inside walls, or is it eaves and everything, basically roof square footage?
I thought it was 140, but I don't actually work in the building department, so.
I
I
think
can't be
Travis is right.
quoted.
I think it's 120.
I thought it was
I
120.
think that's right.
I think it was
120.
120 because I know LA County's 100. So, and I always was like, oh, we get a little more leeway here.
Yeah, and we've done some allowances, before when you're not off 5 foot off the property, but it was because they they had water control. But there was other circumstances with an issuance of a building permit and didn't,
Yeah.
anyway. But I think that they need to know that they can be probably held responsible if they do something and not get a building permit, that it will come back on them.
Yes.
But yes, I think that's another item that we should bring up. No chickens today, though. Okay, we'll leave that for the new city council. No. We got to have a laugh once in a while. Come on, you guys. Okay, staff items.
So I do have a couple of things for you guys. The Planning Commissioner Academy will be fully online this year, and that's going to take place on the March the 25th, 26th, and 31st, and April the 1st. So we do have in the budget for planning commissioners to attend the training, so.
Give me those dates again, because it says the 24th through 26th.
I know. The current website listed as the 25th, 26th, 31st, and April the 1st. So I'll be sending planning commissioners an individual email, so look out for that, and let me know if you can make it so that I can arrange for registration for you guys.
Is this like a webinar?
Yes, it's going to be, it's a webinar, but there's also like networking in between the different classes. So you'll,
But basically, the reason I ask about a webinar, basically, they can log into it at any time. You don't have to attend it during business hours. You could do it in the evening.
right, I will be able to find some more information because you might have access to it for an extended amount of time. It might not have to be that you have to be there at 2. So I'll let you guys know the full details, but I just wanted to let you know on those
Okay.
dates. The next thing is to let
Hey,
you guys.
before you move on to that, the other thing for our existing commissioners, this is being made available and paid for by the city council and the city. So Heather would need a commitment that you would be willing to attend that before we pay for it. And that's she's going to send out a letter to everybody, but that way we can commit and not waste any revenue from the city. Thank you.
So the next thing is, last year, and I just found out about this at the beginning of the year, but last year, Assembly Bill 1561 provided an extension of 18 months to active track maps. So what we're going to do is extend all of the maps for an additional 18 months to comply with this. So some of the people that would have applied in January already know. But I will be issuing letters to everyone that has an active track map, letting them know what their new date is. And then, so I should be able to provide some feedback to you guys next month to let you know what those new expiration dates are. But that was an automatic extension, so a lot of those maps will have another 18 months.
So one question to that, I asked this already, but all of you weren't here, is that some of the maps that we've already given them their last extension, when they are given this 18 months, it won't be
On top of it.
on top of it. But what I'm wondering, is that an 18-month concurrent or 18-month after the end of their current extension?
The way that we have agreed to do it is after the expiration date that is on their map right now. At this point, we don't have a lot of active maps, so when we lose all these maps, it is going to put us in a detrimental position for housing development in the future. So staff finds it favorable that they have their 18 months that the state gave them, and
Okay.
we would add that to the end of their map, not make it, not add another 6 months to when we approved it last year, because that just doesn't seem to comply with the
Spirit of the law?
intent of what the Assembly bill was for.
Okay. You have one more item?
One more. So we did have some discussion with a citizen that is possibly interested in median art. So with the help of the chairman here, I've come up and found some of the past information, and at this point, we're going to be looking to meet. So on the committee right now is Bernie and Warren. So I'll be sending you some dates. Hopefully, we can meet next month and talk about what this is going to look like and what the process is going to be, and see if it needs to be changed. It's been quite a few years since the last time we did it, so we might have some processes that will change. But hopefully we can get it active again and be able to see some new median art go into some of those spots.
So there was an extensive effort to streamline this process with Caltrans. And so that information should still be there. Heather and I also talked. We had invited a number of the local community with particular expertise to be part of the committee and participate in that, in the approval of the art. Also, Bernie, for what you should know is that prior to stopping, we had 3 monuments that were already prepared that had not gone into the ground. And this new one would make 4.
Okay.
And the city would I believe, like to get involved in traffic mitigation, which will limit, some of the cost or minimize some of the costs. So we can discuss all that at a committee meeting, but we're going to try and put all this together and resurrect all the old information so that we're kind of prepared and fruitful.
Okay.
Okay? Anything else from the commissioners? Anything that you would like to bring up? Seeing none. I'm sorry to see you go. I congratulate you on your new position.
Thank you.
And we're grateful to have you on board. And grateful to Councilman Rajaratnam, who appointed me to another 4 years. And so I'm grateful in his confidence, having worked with him for a number of years. So that's all I have this evening. Anybody else? Okay, then I will adjourn at 6:30. Thank you.